Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Because if you know me, I'm feeling really good. We're going to talk about some stuff that's hopefully going to wake people up to some unlawful conversions right in, on, and for the public record in the Library of Congress in the unlawful conversion of plain language. So, let me get set up here. Okay. I'll get turned around here. Because if you guys remember me talking earlier about farmers and ranchers, persons eligible for real estate loans were farmers and ranchers, and we clarified in and on their own record, their code here, that a farmer was one that was intending to fish farm. Okay? And again, here in Title VII of the Code of Federal Regulations, Agriculture, we have sets of definitions. The following definitions will apply to this part and all documents issued in accordance with this part unless specified otherwise. So this is a general application of definitions. Agricultural uses are defined by states, FRPP. This is farm and ranch land protection program. Farm and ranch land protection program. Farm and ranch land. Now we already know a farmer is intending to fish farm, so the land should be a fish farm or equivalent, or where no program exists. Program any and all individual auditing or accrediting procedures. That's both public and private. So when we meet with these people and we present our auditing and accrediting procedures, we're going to supersede theirs. We're going to bring it out of the commercial system. That agriculture. We're not performing agriculture. It's not multiple cultures. We're performing our culture, and it is not a serving of two masters. It is a one master. Cultural, not agricultural. And it is according to my culture that I commune with those, or communicate with my Father which art in heaven. And He teaches me how to live in earth. I don't need a commercial equivalent. Agricultural uses should be defined by the State Agricultural Use Tax Assessment Program. See, it has to be assessed first for agricultural use before it can be entered into the program. However, if the Natural Resource Conservation Service, I want people to realize what this is. National Resource Conservation Services. Their resources have to be gotten from one place, the original source. And then they resource them nationally for conservation, two services, with serve. And then service, with service, service. So the National Resource Conservation Services is looking for the original source, and that's what we're going to give them. We're going to work mutually with them in agreement. But we're going to change the agreements. We're going to line item veto and take out their underwriting ability by overriding them with superior words. Finds that state definition of agriculture is so broad and that an included use could lead to the degradation of soils and agricultural productivity. Well, if it's detrimental to the agricultural productivity, wouldn't it also be detrimental to the cultural productivity? We have to be in agreement. If it's detrimental to multiple cultures, would it not also be detrimental to one culture? Come out of her. Come out of that multiplicity, that duality, and let them know you know you're one culture. National Resources Conservation Services reserves. Look at that. Conservation Services reserves the right to impose greater deed restrictions on the property than allowable under the state definition of agriculture in order to protect agricultural use and related conservation values. Always at the very end is the most important thing. Assessment program has to go to according to values, and they have to, in their own admission of conservation with the values of those other services, multiple services of multiple cultures. What is your service of a commercial aspect in accord with my service as a public service of a child of Israel who is supposed to love thy neighbor as thyself and give freely that which is given freely? Period. Chief means the chief of NRCS or designee. The chief of the branch or any officer or employee of the branch to whom authority has hereto been delegated or to whom authority may hereafter be delegated to act in his stead. In his standing. Not at law, at his standing, but in his standing. See, I fear not, for I have been redeemed. He has called me by name. I am his. And that is where I stand. I am not here to redeem myself. I am here to redeem the land which you have conserved and agricultured and poisoned with your agriculture and multiple services, and I am here to redeem it. I am not here under your conservation easement. I am not here under your voluntary means to legally record a restriction. Your restriction has already been recorded. You recorded your own babble. You recorded your own babble. NR National Resource Conservation Services reserves. Read it. What is this reservation of services with services resourced from the original source of a national? Where'd you get that information from the national? Was it entered properly? If it was not entered properly into the import record, because it was not the intent to export anything, when giving symbolic information, it was not my intent to export anything. Yet that is the presumption of the commercial courts. Legal fiction is a presumption of the facts presented. So that's the letter of the law. The intent is the substance. It was not my intent. Period. 1490, where is it? Landowner. Means a person, legal entity, or Indian tribe having legal ownership of land. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Again, we are here to redeem the land that these people are claiming to be selling. I'm not here to buy the land. I'm not here to sell the land. I'm here to redeem it. Get over it. Non-governmental organization, and here we go. If the chief, review and decertification of certified entity, review and decertification because it wasn't entered properly. We're going to review it, and it says the chief will conduct a review. I am the chief. I am the... Listen to the words. Listen to the terms. The indispensable party. In order to use that name, you have to have gotten it from somewhere, the source. That is how you resourced it. Chiefly. And I will conduct a review of the certified entity, a minimum of once every 3 years, to ensure that the certified entities are meeting the certification criteria. I haven't done it once yet. Now I'm going to initiate my mutual agreement to have the same capacity to do the same thing, and that is conduct a review of the certified entity. Under 149 or 1491.4D. If the chief finds that the certified entity no longer meets the criteria in 1491.4D, the chief will allow the certified entity a specific or specified period of time, at a minimum 180 days, in which to take such actions as may be necessary to correct the identified deficiencies. In their records, a deficiency is an excess. They have an excess of information that does not belong, and we are going to withdraw that information. We mutually made mistakes, and that information was entered on the record errantly. It was mistakenly entered by both parties. So both parties need to come to a peace treaty and agree that we both need to remove the information that was identified as deficiencies. Excess. They weren't required. And now we're going to make them classified. We're going to classify them as private. The next one is the program requirements. Again, it's a program requirement, but first they have to do the assessment in order to find out if it's applicable to the program. Applicants include themselves. They have to do the assessment to see if it applies to the program they wish to institute. Under the Farmer and Ranch Land Protection Program, on behalf of the Commodity Credit Corporation of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Who's the credit? Who's the creditor? They're the ones giving the credit on that side. You're the one giving equal credit on the other side by giving them the information. When they assess that they are the creditor, they are in fact telling you the truth. They are both the creditor and the debtor, as you yourself are both the creditor and a debtor. You just haven't clarified the terms. You haven't done the proper assessment by reviewing the obligations and all of this. You have to do your review. You have to do your assessment mutually. Everyone that has a right also has an obligation. They are mutual obligations and mutual rights, mutual credits and mutual debts. Everything has a yin and a yang. Get used to it. Notice, however, it says, will facilitate and provide funding for the purchase. We were talking about this in an earlier Zoom. The purchase is the buying and selling of conservation easements. It's a business opportunity. That's it. Or other interest. The other interest is your private interest in eligible land. But the problem with it is eligible land says privately owned. How can they enter eligible lands into their records if it's privately owned? They can't. It has to be ineligible. It has to somehow become ineligible private property. They have to condemn it as private property in order to make it public property for business opportunities to take a commercial advantage. Advantage. We're going to correct all of this by correcting these terms. National Park Service and related programs. Establishment of general administration. You mean the General Services Administration? Since we are talking about National Resource Conservation Services reserves their rights, so that would mean the establishment of those services upon the general administration for systems, units, and related areas would be first under the National Park System. Isn't that what the National Conservation Services is all about? And it's general administration? Well, let's look at the general provisions, meaning provisional law. And look at this. It says promotion and regulation. Promotion, doesn't that sound like advertisement? Acting through the director of the National Park Service. The secretary means the Secretary of Interior. Are we talking about the interior boundaries of the state border where the federal territory exists?
I'll be back.
Very plain language, people. Federal, I don't care what state asserts what. It's always federal territory, and it's done under the National Park System for the general administration of all services under provisional, which is commercial law. Period. So under the conservation, that's the with service. What about the pre-service? You know, in beginning was God, or in beginning was Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Isn't that who served us? This glorious world we live in, that they call national parks. The Secretary, in consultation with the Board, Preservation Technology and Training Board, and training grants to eligible applicants. Eligible applicants. Remember, we were just talking about who's eligible. Private property. So what does that make public property? Entered in onto that record, claiming it was entered properly, converting private land to public land. Well, I'd like to see the proper entry document through preservation grant established through general administration of the National Park System. Otherwise, all you attorneys that want to move through this system, you can just park your ass right where it sits. We go on to 7 CFR again. Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, Farm Service Agency. Farm marketing quotas. Promotion. Farm promotion and regulations. Except as provided in individual parts of Chapter 7 and 14 of this title, the following terms shall be as defined here in administrative variance. Means the amount determined by which the determined acreage of tobacco may exceed Remember, we were talking about excess, exceed the effective allotment, and be considered in compliance with the program regulations. So when we give them excessive information that actually doesn't belong, we're still in compliance, even though it's not applicable to us. We are the ones that make it applicable by complying. Allotment means an acreage for a commodity allocated to a farm. Remember we talked about what definition of a farmer was? Well, if he's operating a farm for the intent of fish farming, it should have fish on it, right? And you would expect that ranch and farm land protection programs would allocate allotments for acreages for such commodities of fish. But yet, under the definition of farm, for the allotments and variances of, means a tract or tracts of land that are considered to be a separate operation under the terms of this part, provided further that where multiple tracts are to be treated as one farm, the tracts must have the same operator and must also have the same owner, except that the tracts of land having different owners may be combined if all owners agree to the treatment of the multiple tracts as one farm for these purposes. Folks, the owner is the one with the legal title. If you've got a legal title and you're professing to be an owner of a tract of land anywhere, you better be performing the operation of fish farming. And I don't see how you can be fish farming and raising tobacco. You see where I'm going, people? What's a crop? This is why we look at these definitions, and they point it out to us. What's a crop? Means with respect to a year, commodities harvested in that year. So it's the term of 1 year. That's a crop. It has nothing to do with the commodity itself. It's the term. It's the time. Crop is a time. Commodities harvested in that year with respect to a year. It's all the commodities collected in that year. So when we list an account and those commodities are data elements, every account is a harvest of data elements per year. That's why they have 1 year in every court. They have to settle the account of the crop harvest. Base acre means, with respect to covered commodity on a farm, the number of acres in effect as defined in regulations. So, includes any generic in a fiction. Do they have genes? What is the genesis of fiction? Is it fiction itself? So includes any generic base acres. The land shall not be sold forever. That's my base acre. How's that for your value and variance of allotment? Being farmer or rancher means a person or legal entity for which both of the following are true for the farmer or rancher: has not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years and materially or substantially participates in the operation. What's that operation? The operation is persons eligible for real estate loans. You have to be eligible in order to get a real estate loan. It has to be converted to a commercial process. Therefore, it has to be conveyed from a private process first, and therefore it has to be entered into the court records properly first. If there is no land record with a proper entry form, then they can't sell anything on top of any land. It too is fiction. The land itself is private, people. Everything they are doing is fiction. And you can see by their own terms and conditions that they're doing here. Beginning farmer or rancher means a person or legal entity for which both of the following are true for the farmer. Why didn't they put the same definition of farmer that they put here? What are farmers? The term farmer includes a person who is engaged in, or who with the assistance afforded under this chapter intends to engage in fish farming. You know, I note see if we can find the definition of plant. Range tells us the definition of rancher. The range is any area located away from the ranch headquarters used by the employer. The following factors are indicative of the range. It involves land that is uncultivated. Well, if they're farming and ranching on it, it tells you that it's cultivated. So a ranch is not cultivated land. So these people that are professing to be farmers and cultivating the land and planting crops are feeding you full of shit. It involves wide expanses of land, such as thousands of acres. It is located in a remote, isolated area, and typically range housing is required so that the herder can be in constant attendance to the herd. No one factor is controlling, and the totality of the circumstances is considered in determining what should be considered range. The range around me, the range does not include feedlots, corrals, or any area where the stock involved would be near ranch headquarters. Ranch headquarters is a place where the business of the ranch occurs and is often where the owner resides. Is limited and does not embrace large acreage. It only includes the ranch house, barns, sheds, pen, bunkhouse, cookhouse, and other buildings in the vicinity. It doesn't include the land, it includes the buildings on it. That is the ranch. And that is your business opportunity as an operator. That's what makes you a rancher, not cultivating the land and planting crops. And then we'll find out what, since we know what crops are, is tobacco planted on farmland, that is fish farming. It's got to be submerged land that's been condemned and can't be cultivated. Let's see if we can find plant. What is the definition of plant? Oh, here we go. There it is. There it is. Okay, I want everybody to pay attention. This is a term. It is planting. That means it is a verb. A verb. Okay? Watch what happens. This is a blue line highlighted definition. It's going to take you to a definition. And instead of planting, which is a verb, in conjunction with harvesting practices, for corn, for the area which is synonymous with vicinity, corn means field corn or sterile high sugar corn that follows the standard planting and harvest practices. Planting and harvesting practices. This is the definition of corn itself. Watch what happens to the verb. Any place of business where the egg products are processed. Okay. So we just saw how a ranch went from a ranch house and the buildings being on top of the land where the business is being operated and corn is being planted. It says corn, planting, and planting is a place. Do you see how they have proved an inconsistency in their own usage? Plain usage of common language. And they went from a verb to a noun of a person, place, or thing to then describe a process of the operation of an eggplant. I mean, really, where egg products are processed. And what's that got to do with corn? What does that have to do with corn? Let me show you that again. It's a noun. Corn means field corn or sterile high sugar corn that follows the standard planting and harvesting practices. And if you're going to plant corn, that means you're producing eggs. I don't get it. Please pay attention, people. I'm out of here. I got to post my link for the Zoom coming up in 20 minutes. We open at 5 minutes till 8 p.m. Reconciling the Master Trust account. See it on my page. I'll see you there. In the meantime, remember, folks, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. I love you. Have a great night. Bye. And remember, you're not farmers and ranchers, dummies. That's for dummy corporations. Corporations.